Welcome in to the latest episode of Betting the Pitch. This is a European soccer edition specifically focused on the Champions League. We are going through the quarterfinals of Champions League Leg 2. We're going to try to get through all the matches, which shouldn't be hard because there's only 4 of them, but we'll also go through best bets for each of the matches, specifically for each of the match days for Tuesday and Wednesday, or days that they're played. And I will discuss the updated to advance numbers, discuss what I've already played, and we'll try to go through and find some winners here. First match day, I guess, in this calendar, so that would be Tuesday and Wednesday of last week, were incredibly high scoring. I don't expect that to happen again, but you might as well stick around for the analysis. And really, I'm going to talk it out and try to come up with the best way to advance our bankrolls until the weekend, next weekend. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out. Patreon.com/real_G Warner, the best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, everything all in one place. You get my leans each night, my star plays, or my as soon as I lock things in, if you turn on notifications, you get a buzz every time I put something in there. So make sure you go sign up, patreon.com/real_G Warner. And if you're wherever you're watching this on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave a 5-star review. It's huge for the search rankings, betting the pitch across the Spotify platform and also on Apple Podcasts, but at the real_G Warner on YouTube. So we'll start on Tuesday, April 16th. I'm actually recording this Tuesday, April 16th, 105 Eastern, 105 Central Time. It's going to be a late one, but I guess that's how we do it. Late night with at the real_G Warner. And all the lines are quoted courtesy of BetOnline and Sportsbetting.ag. There are links in the podcast descriptions with promo codes to get free money at both of the casinos. But I've said this a million times. You haven't done already. I don't know what you're waiting for, but it's a good time of the year for baseball juice with way reduced juice compared to what you'd see from a local bookie, a local, or really most of the offshores like Bovada and stuff. And definitely the in-state options. So I'll start with Barcelona hosting PSG. Barca, a quarter goal favorite right now with slightly more juice. Over-under is 3.25. Juice more to the over than to the under. So in terms of where this number has been, or at least since I've been tracking it, PSG, it's been pretty much around here. I guess Barcelona at home have been taking a little money. I haven't seen it different than a quarter of a goal. And I haven't really seen it different than 3.25 as a total. First matchup, first leg, we saw a really awesome game with some incredible finishes, and honestly had no idea which way it was going, but eventually Barcelona ended up winning 3-2. Came from behind, started the scoring, I think, and then came from behind, et cetera, et cetera. You don't need me to recap it, because if you're listening to me live at 1:07 a.m. on a Tuesday morning here in the United States, then you are probably a fan. You probably watched it yourself. With that said, so first leg went to Barcelona and to over. They were fairly, I thought, pretty big underdog. I did not play Barcelona. I was thinking about it, but my biggest concern is that I think PSG is good here, and I think they have a lot of ability, and I think that their style. I played under in the game, which lost fairly quickly, unfortunately. Though I felt like I had a chance, at least longer than the other matches in this in the Champions League quarterfinals, match day 1. I think so. So my reasoning was that PSG was going to possess the ball, and that they were going to make it really hard for Barcelona, who are not very efficient, or I would actually call their offense inefficient. They take a lot of chances, or they take a lot of shots, but they don't score many of them. So I figured that they would have less opportunities because PSG would control a lot of the ball. PSG used to be a counter-attacking side under all their managers, and we really try to use Kylian Mbappe's pace on the counter. That's changed under Luis Enrique, former national team manager of Spain. He's tried to control the ball more, but I don't really know necessarily that worked perfectly. Though I'll pull up the PSG result here on my own computer. Sorry, I don't have a way to display it. But I think, I guess what I'm thinking of is, why did that first leg not go as I kind of expected to happen? We saw PSG get a bye this weekend, not play at all in France. Liga basically took everyone who's in Europe. You got it off, which is, I think, brilliant. And it's really what the smaller leagues do during Champions League, like regular play, group stage play. But I think it's a great idea, especially as France is trying to regain a power position that they've lost, falling behind the Dutch Eredivisie based off of last year's performances, though I think they're taking that spot back. With that said, so Rafinha scored the first for Barcelona, and then Dembele and Vitinha in a 2-minute stretch scored in the second half to take a 2-1 lead. for PSG at home, and I think Barcelona is really shaking. But Rafinha got a second goal, and then inexplicable just staying on his line from Gigi Donnarumma, who is a good goalkeeper at times, but certainly leaves a lot to be desired. Just letting Andres Christensen get a header in the 8 yard box to score, or 6 yard box. That was wild to me, and PSG kind of deserved to lose, especially after falling behind, then taking a lead, allowing themselves at home to be equalized, and then even lose. They're in big trouble here, and they clearly have to win in order to force extra time, have to win by multiple goals to kill the tie in regulation and not go to extra time. So they're going to have to be very it's the problem is I don't think it changes what PSG want to do. So why I pulled this up is because I want to look at the stats, and if we can trust Google, who knows. But PSG is listed as 59% possession to Barcelona's 41. That's probably one of the lower possession rates that Barcelona has had in years, probably this season, I think, unless you're talking about a road trip to Real Madrid, which I want to say is still coming up. So I don't think that's happening. I think that's this weekend, which great timing after they go all out to try to make sure they stay in Champions League. Not great timing, as Real Madrid are also on the road at Man City, but we'll get to them in a little bit. I would expect PSG to try to play the same type of game, but they're going to try to possess the ball. And I think Barcelona, we've seen them go from scoring or really conceding goals every time that there was a break against them, to then playing with a number, I guess, eight, or excuse me, number six would be a defensive midfielder, more defensive than an eight, but really just putting a center back in their central defensive midfielder position, just to try to prevent the ball from going in their net. I don't know that Barcelona will want to play that way at home. I feel like that's a really good way to get the crowd on your back and get them really mad and whistling you. And that does seem to impact European soccer players a lot more than booze do in American sport. But I think Barca at home should, normally I favor the home team to win the possession battle at home. Not always to win matches, but usually if they're of similar value, which I think Champions League quarterfinalists is usually that way, that Barca should have more possession. But I think PSG is probably more likely to do so here. They clearly need to win. A 1-goal victory for Paris will get them to extra time, but will cover the spread as a quarter-goal underdog. Meanwhile, if Barcelona are drawing in the final few minutes, they're wasting time and not trying to beat your PSG plus 1/4. Yes, you only win half a unit at the current price, but that's still more of a unit than you came in there with. I feel like this is, I mean, it's a small, short price on PSG, and I feel like it does reflect the game state, or the scenario of what we're looking at here. Game state might be an American term, but really what we're looking at is PSG needing a goal just to even force extra time. Late in matches, especially in knockout rounds and second legs of two-legged ties, I feel like they're really good for seeing nothing happen in the last 10 minutes, where a lot of what I've learned this year is most of my losses seem to come in stoppage time. If I haven't lost before stoppage time, of course, those happen from time to time, but the late goals have really killed me, especially have killed my unders. I would imagine that Barcelona, because they know they can goalless this match, offer nothing, just stop PSG, and they will advance. I think that's a risky strategy. I don't think they'll do that. But I do think they'll probably play more defensively than you would suspect. And I feel like going on the road to Paris and only possessing the ball 41% of the time, I think that also will tell you that PSG will possess the ball a lot here, despite being away from home. So with all that said, I think Barca's going to try to defend. They're clearly not great at it. And that does, I guess, open them up on counterattacks. But Robert Lewandowski is not exactly young. Rafinha certainly is pacey and is really good, but has no right foot. So that's a problem, even if he is running at a PSG defense that's also retreating. I feel like Paris, they I mean, got the week off, and that's huge for them. But to me, that would be better for a team that needs to really hold out in defense. And that's clearly not what they're going to do here, is they need to win this match to even force extra time. So I don't know that necessarily. In Barca, they rotated significantly, got a win off of, I think, one overhead kick goal from Joao Felix, and then really held on for dear life, or really just didn't do much the rest of the match, which was great for my under there. Thank you, Barcelona. Both Barca and Real Madrid winning 1-0 in the same weekend when I had unders is like an amazing weekend, probably the best I'll ever have. But looking forward to a tie here that we can potentially win some more money on. And I feel like there's a lot of reason as I think of my ultimate best bet, which is kind of coming end of show. Sorry if I didn't say that already. I think I did, but I'll pick one of my favorite bets from both Tuesday and Wednesday, and then come up with which will be the ultimate best bet, which you can grade me upon. I look forward to that, of course. Let's see, what did I have? So I had Dortmund, which was a loser last time of on the Champions League. So you can put my feet to the fire for that. But anyway, since it's now the 16th of April, just updating my background so I can tally this up for everyone and have somewhat legitimate of a record. So I like PSG getting that quarter of a goal. I like under 3.25 because I think PSG will possess the ball. I think Barcelona with an aggregate lead will defend. Of course, I don't know necessarily when that all-out defense will start. It probably won't start very soon. It's probably one of those things where I would expect that it's probably a game of tug of war, or a seesaw battle for a while. But eventually, I think Barca, as they see the clock ticking, they're going to try to be more defensive and will try to get. They'll allow PSG to have the ball. They're just going to try to stay tight and try to use a counterattack, and that's perfect for Barcelona as a favorite if you're fading them, and also to play under there. So that's my interest there. Moving to the two advanced numbers, we'll go and I can tell you where we've been and where we're going or where we've been headed. So it looks like we've had, I guess, where we opened. So Paris Saint-Germain, they opened a very slight -130 favorite at BetOnline. That's Sportsbetting.ag. If you're not a member, go make a first-time deposit. Follow the links in the podcast description. You get free money. Now, I mean, that number climbed to, I guess, to where it closed, which is only slightly bigger, -140 PSG grew, or it decreased 7.14%. The Barcelona side closed +120 at 16.7% growth. So that was clearly the PSG side was getting bet more, which didn't go very well, maybe based on playing at home, all that sort of stuff. Now, PSG is a +265 underdog to advance. Barcelona -340. My biggest concern, if you're looking to potentially take the +265, or I mean, if you've already bet Barcelona in the first leg or before the first leg to advance, you've made a great bet. I'd probably stick with that, especially at home, though. Certainly, the home field advantage is not the same at Montjuïc, as they call it, or the Olympic Stadium in Barcelona, while Camp Nou is getting constructed or rebuilt or whatever the heck they're doing, makeovered. I think that does give PSG an opportunity here, but I don't know that I want to back them to potentially overturn a deficit in regulation. So if they don't do that, then of course it's anybody's game in extra time. And PSG did have the week off, so that should mean they're much better rested. And there is some to the point that if you're defending the whole match, which Barcelona with a lead probably will be until that they get equalized on aggregate, they will be much more tired, but they have a home crowd behind them. They're used to playing in Barcelona. I think less travel, all that sort of stuff. And I think it'd be pretty hard if you're backing PSG in a penalty shootout to see them win, but at +265, I mean, that's a really great scenario. I think that's probably, I would assume that shootouts are basically coin flips, probably something close to that. I mean, this number is giving you a 27% chance to advance if PSG make it to penalties. So there's probably some value there. I don't know if there's enough. I mean, there probably is enough that I'll put on my list of things to consider tomorrow. But that's I think what I'll do for that first matchup on Tuesday, the 16th of April. We're in this in the wee hours, Tuesday, 16th of April. Move next to Borussia Dortmund, and they are hosting Atletico Madrid in this leg or this stage of the tournament. Atleti 1-2-1 in the first leg off of two horrible Borussia Dortmund mistakes. Borussia Dortmund did get a goal back from Sebastian Haller, who ended up getting hurt this weekend and forced off in the first 15 minutes. I can't imagine he'll be playing, so it looks like back to Niklas Füllkrug. But then Dortmund hit the crossbar, or like maybe even where the corner of the post and the crossbar meet on a header from Julian Brandt late in the match, which would have squared things up and been much better for my two advance bet. So unfortunately, I mean, it's not as bad as a 2-0 loss, to say the least. 2-2 would have been great and would certainly made Borussia Dortmund a favorite to move through. But at the same time, I think there's a good chance they beat Atletico Madrid, who've really struggled on the road across all competitions in La Liga, even against really bad teams, all that sort of stuff. In terms of where this number is right now, so Borussia Dortmund, a quarter goal favorite at home, slightly more juice than Atleti on the road. Where has that moved? Looks like it hasn't really done much. In terms of the total, 2 3/4, juiced all the way to the over. We might get a 3 here. And I think that will be an interesting move because the push on 3 is essential, important. It's like a 9 in Major League Baseball, a 3-point spread in the NFL, National Football League. That's all super helpful stuff. I think there's huge value in buying up 2 3/4 under or to play the minus 125 on under 3 as opposed to the plus 105 on under 2 3/4. You get half your bet at 3, but I don't think it's worth it. Just because there's too many matches that end on 3 and with late goals and all that sort of stuff. It might not be plus EV over the long run. I do feel like though, if there's any time to buy up, because I'm most of the time selling a half a goal underdog to a quarter goal, and trying to make up the juice that way for then potentially paying extra juice for a 3/4 goal underdog or a total to get it up to that full 3, because I'm not really playing totals below 2. So that's not really a consideration for me. But with that said, for regards to this match, so Borussia Dortmund, they're at home in front of the yellow wall. Went to that 2 seasons ago, before I went to Oktoberfest in Mushin. If you're watching on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, I guess they all do video. You can see I'm wearing my Bayern Munchen shirt. Couldn't find the Dortmund one. I guess it's in the wash or somewhere. Hopefully it's not lost. But ultimately, Dortmund's going to be an impossible place to play. It always is. They got a really big win on the road at Borussia Mönchengladbach, which is huge for Dortmund and their Champions League in the Bundesliga slot that they're fighting Red Bull Leipzig. I think they're tied for it right now, but it was a great spot for them to fall on their face. They got a red card pretty early, conceded a goal, but ultimately had a 2-0 lead and then held on for dear life and were able to do so. And it was a big result for them and probably was a very good situation to kind of build them up. Atletico Madrid, on the other hand, they had a home match with Girona, who have been really just a deflated balloon ever since they lost to Real Madrid when it was like a big 1-2 title match or whatever for La Liga. They've come down to earth, but Atleti did fall behind. Maybe they're a little bit gun shy, slow to the pace or something like that. But they're also fighting for a Champions League place at the moment in La Liga. So they did get a big win. I don't know that it was fully deserved, but the goals certainly seem to be, and they definitely made Girona look like the team that had totally overshot its or had blown its load. Excuse my French, but it's late night, so I guess that's allowed. In terms of the Dortmund quarter goal favorite here, I think that they are going to push for a win here. The crowd will certainly help them. And I think the response is probably expected and predictable from Atletico Madrid. And I think they are going to do everything they can to try to make this match end 0-0. And I also feel like if they go down 1-0, I think Atleti are still, I mean, they're more offensive and interested in playing than they had been in the past under Diego Simeone. They put a lot of money in the squad and they've had success, won the league a couple seasons ago, and Champions League's worked out fairly well for them besides last season. I just don't think that at the core that they want to take risks until they have to. And I feel like even 1-0, I think they're still pretty comfortable with trying to take this to extra time. I don't think that's the worst scenario for them. It's not exactly on a Mallorca level at the Copa del Rey where they were celebrating surviving extra time and going to penalty kicks where they ended up losing to Athletic Club last weekend. Hopefully I'm not spoiling anything. My bad if so. I hate that when other people do it, so maybe I should. I'll do what I try to tell the ESPN broadcasters on Twitter, and they never respond. Is I'll give you a spoiler, but I guess this is the podcast we're preparing for the next round. It's a little different than reading off a score of another game. You're not even covering, especially if it's another league like ESPN FC does. Anyway, that's a rant. I think Atleti are going to play this as low scoring as possible, and I think that's great for any sort of underlean. I don't really want to do much with the quarter of a goal underdog that Atleti currently are. I don't really see that moving too much. I think it might stay there, maybe climb to a half, but I think a pick'em will be a surprise if that happens. Borussia Dortmund currently minus 152 at BetOnline, Sportsbetting.ag at pick'em. So I don't think that's a very likely scenario. So I think my biggest interest here, though, is under 2 3/4. I'd love to get a full three. If we can get there, that would be lovely. But I just think there's a huge situation here where only one team's gonna be going for this. Atleti are celebrating every second that ticks with no goals allowed, because that puts them through the next round, and it'd be huge for them financially. But I just really think that this is a great spot for an under, especially I think we're seeing, I mean, the totals in Champions League are always overvalued, overpriced, or higher than they should be, in my humble opinion. And it's been a really great throughout the knockout stages. It's been a great moneymaker for me. I think this is a response to a very high scoring match day one in the quarterfinals. And I think this is a perfect example of that. And probably couldn't be a better situation with Atleti with a 1 goal lead, trying to just defend that for 90 minutes or 90 plus 10, depending on how many extra time minutes will be given. As for the two advanced number, I want to get that before I move to Wednesday. Looks like when it opened, we had Borussia Dortmund a +1.5, so +150, 3-2 odds, $100 bet will win 150. Atleti -185. That's been driven down +140 or so at time of kickoff last week. Down 7 and 0.14%. Atleti had dropped 12%. Thank you for giant handles across all soccer futures, unfortunately. Not giving BetOnline Sportsbetting.ag a pass, but at least they do it better than other places. Now we have jumped to Atletico Madrid, a -250 favorite. Borussia Dortmund to advance +195. So nearly 2-1 odds, basically 34% or so to move through. I think they score that first goal, and all of a sudden we are at 50% or 60% for Borussia Dortmund to move through. Playing in front of the yellow wall, back at once that first leg lead disintegrates for Atleti. I think they are still in a shell, and I think that puts them in a real dangerous position where they're not going to attack too much unless Dortmund make another big mistake or two mistakes. But I would expect potentially after Hummels was rested for a lot of this weekend's match that it'll be him and Nico Schlotterbeck in the back four. And we'll see what Dortmund, but they also have to be aggressive offensively. I don't know if Schüttl will be in there unless they're trying to protect the lead late, but we'll also see. And I know suspension, that might be a little bit different. But regardless, I think my biggest interest for Tuesday, the 16th of April, is that Atletico Madrid under 2 3/4 goals. I will be holding out hope for 3. I guess I'm still interested in Dortmund +195 to move through. It hasn't changed that much from the +140. I mean, yes, it's significantly different because they lost the first leg, but getting that full back later in the game, and it would have been huge if they got an equalizer. But still, just coming back home to the yellow wall, Schwarzgelben only 1 goal behind. I think they're in a good position to move through. But that'll be my best bet, the under in that matchup, under 2 3/4 at the time of recording. So I'll move to Wednesday. And just want to let you know on this podcast channel, Betting the Pitch, if you're not subscribed, please do so. Also at @the_real_G Warner on YouTube, plus on Instagram, where hopefully I have enough memory on my phone. I've been struggling with that for like a month now. But trying to cut up a reel so you can get this in a minute as opposed to the 40 or so I'm going to do recording this. But make sure you subscribe all the platforms. 5-star reviews would be really huge, and would get us up to search rankings. That'd be huge. But this week, tomorrow night, I'll be recording another baseball episode with @ABrooksBets. Still have an off-season episode planned with @Biggie Spend, celebrating his 11-0 best bet streak in the NCAA tournament, which was awesome. But stay tuned for that, and we'll move now to Wednesday, which is why everyone is actually here. So, and thank you for tuning in late night. I'm surprised there's so many with us, but love it, and thank you. And any comments, questions, whatever, leave a 5-star review, and I'm happy to respond. Or we'll just fly my DMs, either one. We'll move next to Manchester City hosting Real Madrid. Probably the most entertaining of all the Champions League matches last week, or match day one of the quarterfinals. Not great for my underplay, but ultimately was incredible spectacle. And it does certainly open your eyes that is certainly what these incredible soccer players are capable of. But we'll see. Or footballers is probably how I should say it. With that said, currently looking at the numbers, I think I have a little bit more data on where these lines have moved. So Real Madrid initially opened a three-quarter goal underdog. They are still at that price, but the juices swung pretty significantly towards the Manchester City side. And Man City looks like they might be, I mean, they have all the juice right now, three-quarters of goal favorite, might get a -1 by the time this kicks off. I would imagine there would be plenty of people backing Real Madrid, a huge fan base across the world, of course. But also the push on one is pretty significant. Total here is 3, which is a move up. It looks like it was a little bit more juice to under at 2 3/4 initially when I first had this, but we've basically got the same juice, but under 3 now, and that's a pretty nice reaction, especially with that push on 3, as I just blabbered about for a while. My interests here are Real Madrid and the under 3. So it did not go very well the last time Real Madrid came to Manchester City. I think they lost 4-0 in the second leg of a Champions League tie, got knocked out. I think they'll learn from that. And I think they will be a lot more solid at the back. So different scenarios. I think Real Madrid had a lead heading into to Manchester that last time. Now it's 3-3 on aggregate, and they're going to have to make sure that they don't lose. So best way to do that, best way to not lose is to play defense and to sit in a counter-attacking style. That's exactly what Carlo Ancelotti wants. That's exactly how they play. And that's exactly, I think, the best path for Real Madrid to win. I've questioned their offense and their ability to score goals when they've been required to possess the ball. A lot of the smaller clubs in La Liga make them try to create, and it doesn't work very well until they get late goals from I don't know, Brahim Diaz, Rodrigo, or especially Jude Bellingham, which happened for entire first half of the season. It's been a while. Jude has not been as hot lately. So hot right now, not anymore. But I think with where this match will go is I think it's a perfect setup for Real Madrid to catch Manchester City on a counterattack, which we've seen them suffer from a lot. And that's pretty much when Man City goes wrong. We saw it with Jean-Philippe Mateta from Crystal Palace, who has never won a sprinting contest in his life, I don't suspect. Big dude, though. He finished on a counterattack, took a lead for Crystal Palace at Man City a couple weekends ago. Certainly could happen for Vinny Jr., Rodrigo, anybody in the Real Madrid side. I'm not sure if they have suspensions to worry about, but I'll certainly look for before locking this all in. And I will be discussing all my leans and everything with everyone. Subscribe to my Patreon, patreon.com/real_G Warner. You don't just get picks, you get write-ups, discussion, everything like that. So go check it out, patreon.com/real_G Warner. So with that said, Real Madrid at the 3/4 of goal underdog. I don't think I want that yet. I want to see them get to +1. We got plenty of time, and the juice certainly suggested that will happen before kickoff on Wednesday afternoon here in Dallas, Texas. I do like under 3. I think that's probably the easiest one for me to say. And I think the reason is Manchester City, if they control this matchup, take a lead, take a 2-0 lead. I think then they start really minding their net, and I don't think they really go to push up the pitch and try to put themselves at risk because they're too worried about Real Madrid potentially getting back into it. I think Real Madrid take a lead, then Man City come out blazing, but ultimately then they win 2-1, and this goes extra time, and you push your under 3. So I think there's those two scenarios work fairly well. I guess the bad one is Man City gets up really big, and Real Madrid stops defending and just starts throwing their bodies forward. But I don't really think Carlo Ancelotti is going to do that, and I don't really think that's like I think Real Madrid really don't want a big loss. Like if they're going to go out, they're going to still be pragmatic relatively. Of course, they want to move through, but they've won this competition so many times, I think more than any other club. I don't think they want to lose 4-0 again. So I think that also plays into the under here. I'll move now to the to advanced number, and I think that will be a little bit interesting. So where we opened initially, we had Real Madrid a +170 underdog, -215 for Manchester City. In terms of where that ended up closing, looks like it got all the way down. It only dropped, I guess, 25 cents, which was a pretty, I guess, I mean, it was down 6% on the Real Madrid side from 170 to +160. Not gigantic, but clearly there was some more money coming in on the Real Madrid side. Now we've jumped up 22% to +225 on Real Madrid to go through, -280 now for Manchester City, and that is about up 27%. Hello, handle. sportsbooks everywhere get that. Good for them, I guess, but I don't love it. With that said, I think Manchester City, I mean, they should go through. They're at home. I think there's a good chance that Real Madrid can potentially slay a dragon away from home, but I think it's unlikely to happen. And I don't think that I have enough of an interest to just risk my capital on Real Madrid, especially after drawing in their first leg and scoring a late goal to equalize. I'm sure, I mean, it was huge for them, gives them a chance here. But ultimately was not really a great showing defensively. And I think there's probably a response on the defensive side for both these clubs. So not really a lot of interest in the two advanced number here. But I'll move now to Bayern Munchen and Arsenal. One of the bets I did win on Champions League last week, the quarterfinal match day one, and that was Bayern Munchen. I took them on the road. It's when do you see Bayern a 3-quarter goal underdog? Never. But it worked out. Though that late goal they conceded, I think made this tie even more interesting, though it was not great for Bayern and trying to save their season ultimately. In terms of where number has gone, so initially I had tracked it where Arsenal were a pick'em with a little bit more juice on the home team, Bayern Munchen. Well, that's changed. It's now Bayern a quarter goal favorite with all the juice and then some on the Arsenal side. So it looks like we're going to jockey between pick'em and a quarter of a goal. And I would expect that to happen. Arsenal closing 3-quarter goal favorite at home, but they weren't really very good. You can even argue that they closed got all the way up to +1 if you wanted to pay the juice for it. So, because there was an even money or better, +103 is what I have the last number at BetOnline on +3/4 for Bayern. So, a fairly reactionary type of number here, especially considering a 2-2 aggregate score line. Total here is 3, juiced all the way to the under, and it looks like that is a climb from the 2 3/4 that was initially posted. So both the totals on Wednesday have climbed a little bit, probably a result of 4 and 6 goals being scored in the first legs. I would expect there's a reversion to the mean here in terms of goal scoring. Now, in terms of how this game is going to be played, Bayern Munchen, they got a 2-0 victory over Cologne this weekend. It was not that lopsided at all. Incredible push on Cologne +2, which I did have, which is really, really frustrating. But I guess it wasn't a loss, so it could have been worse. Bayern did not deserve it. They were really bad, but they rotated a lot. And I think that kind of speaks to Bayern just have already conceded the Bundesliga. That was obvious. So they were more worried about this competition, and they got the performance they were looking for. And I think really did a great job, especially after I think they fell behind. So that was very interesting. I think from an Arsenal's perspective, they are still in a really tough spot where they're trying to balance their goals to win Champions League, but also to win the Premier League. I just there is some benefit to also Alphonso Davies being suspended for Bayern Munchen. That's gonna, I think, take out some option whether he's fully focused on Bayern and trying to leave for Real Madrid or not. I think that's I don't know. It's hard to say, but that certainly will put Rafael Guerrero on the pitch more for Bayern Munchen. He scored the game winner or the first goal, take the 1-0 lead off of a corner kick, not well defended by Cologne. There's a lot of bad defense by Cologne this weekend, and that's why Bayern won 2-0. But ultimately, what happens, I guess, is we saw in the first leg that Bayern were going to play defense. Now, at home, I expect that to be different, but I think Arsenal do a really good job of getting the ball back. Their high pressure is awesome, and I think any pressure they can put on the Bayern back line is going to be a big, big concern because they are very susceptible to turning the ball over, and I would expect at home that they will try to possess the ball more. With the 2-2 on aggregate, it's not worth discussing if Bayern had held on to 2-1. I think that at 2-2, there's a fairly good chance that these two teams are a lot more conservative than you would expect, especially because they're both trying to outscore everyone every time they take the pitch. Though I think in this competition, it's a little different with teams at their level. Arsenal were very defensive at Manchester City, though at best team in the world, treble or quadruple, whatever holders from last season. So I don't think they're going to respect Bayern Munich at the same level, but I do think they will respect them more than I think a lot of people expect. So I feel like this total at 3 is pretty large. Arsenal being a quarter goal underdog after closing nearly a 1 goal favorite at home is a pretty big adjustment. So I feel like I'm interested in the Arsenal side. I'm just not really sure. I mean, if Bayern are basically going to sit in and let Arsenal possess the ball in their home stadium, I mean, that probably is a Thomas Tuchel specialty right there. But I'm just not really sure that that's a likely scenario. They certainly aren't going to let that happen. And I think the big question then is how do they survive if they're in that scenario? Or are they going to possess the ball a ton and Arsenal is just going to let them have it? I don't think that's going to occur. I think Arsenal will be pressing high up the pitch, and I think that's going to cause a lot of turnovers and makes me more that I talk about. And that's why I do these podcasts, also to entertain and to make sure that everyone is still paying attention to me, but also because talking it out, I think is very, very useful before you make a bet. So look for a co-host. So if anyone wants to join on, that'd be nice. But I guess when I'm alone in my own thoughts, I'm not bouncing off padded walls, but I think it's helpful as well. So Arsenal plus a quarter of a goal seems a lot more interesting to me now that I've talked it out than it did before. It's very juicy at the moment. I would imagine this probably closes pick'em, but if Arsenal stay a quarter goal underdog, I'm not really interested in jumping in now, especially if the juice gets a little bit better than minus 126 I'm currently seeing at BetOnline. And Sportsbetting.ag, links in the promo codes and the podcast descriptions, as I've already said probably a million times. But I think that's the side I want here, as I'm an underdog player, so not a surprise. If Bayern were underdogs at home, that'd be very interesting to me. But I think there's a good chance Arsenal wins the possession battle with their high press, causes turnovers in the back with their high press. And I think that makes a quarter goal underdog a lot more interesting to me. Also like under 3 here, just because I think it's going to be a big battle for possession. And I think those are usually good for under because there's a push on 3, which is very important. But a lot of times I think when some team is known to have the ball the whole time, the other team has been practicing their counterattack or their counter press. They know exactly what to do in those scenarios and are living for those type of situations. If two teams that are of similar quality are fighting for possession, usually in the middle of the pitch, far from the goals, and usually there's a lot of people behind the ball and will lead to fewer counterattacking or off kind of like power play situations, if I can use a National Hockey League ice hockey reference. In terms of the 2 advanced number, and then I'll get into ultimate best bets because there's only 4 games to discuss, and I know I'm riding this as long as I can, already 36 minutes in. But hopefully, I mean, I'm getting way more people in here, so I think hopefully you're enjoying this, or maybe you could rewind at the beginning and focus on it that way. But 2 advanced numbers. So in terms of where we've been to where we are. So Arsenal open minus 165, Bayern a plus 135 underdog. Climbed a little bit. It looks like it closed at plus 140, Bayern the same type of price as Borussia Dortmund, which is definitely sub 50%. I'll give you the exact number. It looks like they're about a 42% to move through. Since that change, first number I saw to advance, Bayern Munich a favorite minus 115, Arsenal minus 105. Love 20%, 20 cents juice. Ew. That's a pretty significant change in terms of where we are now. Arsenal now even money, Bayern Munich minus 120. That fits with the spread move from Arsenal, a slight underdog at pick'em to now a quarter goal underdog, though there's not a huge difference in those numbers or expectations. I do feel like Arsenal getting even money is interesting, but they're fighting a Bayern crowd. And if there's ever a time or place for Bayern to play well, it is in the Allianz Arena or whatever they're calling it. I probably shouldn't even say because they're not sponsoring this podcast. If you do want to sponsor this podcast, please reach out at @thereal_G Warner on any sort of platform, whether it's social media, gambling, or whatever. I think Arsenal are an interesting quarter goal underdog, but then extra time will be tough. Penalties at even money is probably not worth it on the road. But ultimately, we'll see where this number goes. I would expect Arsenal money to probably dominate here, but at the same time, Bayern Munich are one of the most bet teams in the world. They always catch money in the Bundesliga, even this season when they've been playing so poorly. But that's probably the side I want. Arsenal, if they can get more than even money, I don't think that's enough for me, though. That's certainly where I start thinking about it. So in terms of the ultimate best bet, I guess I'll get there now. Get my telephone betting machine ready. Hopefully it actually is able to do a minute. We'll see. It hasn't been able to do for a very long time. But I think I deleted the right WhatsApp program, so hopefully that gave me some space. But as I said, if you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot for all my plays, leans, write-ups across all sports. Got baseball rocking, which will be a long year, but plus 18.3 units at pregame last year. Going to go for 20 this year. Hopefully a few more bullpens can hold on to leads after 2-3-0 leads, 3-0 leads. Wow, soccer on the brain. 2-3-0 leads blown today, and brutal. Wild pitch scored a run from second for a blown save at pregame. Brutal. But those will happen. Hopefully they'll go in the right direction moving forward the rest of the season, and I expect that they will. So I guess it's time for that ultimate best bet. Like I said, before I cut this into something, this will be on Reels, which I think will be of interest to a lot of you potentially. It'd be on Reels and also on YouTube Shorts. So if you want to do this instead of 40 minutes, to do it in 1 minute, please subscribe there at the real_G Warner on both platforms, Instagram and on YouTube. And then you'll see a nice little cut in with not just my face, it's some sort of video that I either grabbed from my own travels or potentially because I have attended matches at Atletico Madrid. Hint, hint, hint. Time to get into this. So let's do it. So this is the real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet for the April 16th and 17th. It's the quarterfinals of the Champions League, match day 2 or leg 2 across leg 2. So from the first Tuesday, the 16th of April, I like my best bet will be the Atletico Madrid under 2 3/4 goals, though certainly keep an eye out for 3 before kickoff. On Wednesday, 17th, like Real Madrid under 3 goals. So basically 2 Spanish teams going on the road. Don't expect a lot of scoring. For the ultimate best bet, if you haven't followed me on Patreon, you should. Patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot to call all my plays, leans, write-ups across all sports, going all year, every day. There's a post. And certainly for this summer, a lot of Euro stuff. I'm trying to go as well. See y'all in Germany. But for my best bet on this episode, the ultimate best bet, I'll go with Atletico Madrid under 2 3/4 goals. Wait for that 3, but I'll take under 2 3/4. Feel a very low scoring match where Atleti defend the whole entire time. And that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch. Thank you for tuning in. Super late night, finishing at 1:44. Man, I need to go to sleep. But love you all, and I will talk to you on Wednesday night for another more popular than expected Europa League, Europa Conference League episode, where I know you guys seem to watch that more than you watch Champions League, and maybe it's because I've been on a good run there, and we'll hope to keep that going ASAP, or I guess keep it going as long as possible is probably the way I should say it. So thanks so much. See you tomorrow night for a baseball episode with @ABrooksBets. And have a good evening. Hope you're all asleep or you enjoy this on your way to work tomorrow on Tuesday, the 16th of April.